I think I told you what would happen in the Ravens and Chiefs game. I think the way I put it on Thursday was, and the Ravens are missing a bunch of guys in this game as a result of this football game, and going into the football game, they've had injury problems. But are you going to tell me that them getting their guys back is going to make them look better than Kansas City getting their guys back is going to make Kansas City look? Do you follow? Just getting Worthy back today made that kind of difference, having a vertical element for them. You saw it at different points in the game, the explosives that he gives them, but also even when he doesn't touch the ball, the things that he does, it's a trickle-down effect just by having a guy that can run a 4-2 something and a quarterback who can throw him the ball anywhere on the field. You add Thornton into the equation, who's played well, found the end zone a few times in this young season. When they get Rashee Rice back, they'll be even better. Baltimore, on the other hand, I don't know where the floor is for this team. We talk in ceilings a lot with a team like Baltimore because you look at their roster on paper before the season starts, and they're so impressive and yada yada yada. Usually what happens to them is they go to the playoffs and they trick it off in the playoffs. But right now it looks like the playoffs are a question mark. I'm not saying they can't come back from 1-3, but when you are 1-3, you start to feel a little bit more human. And usually the Baltimore Ravens look like the Monstars in the regular season, and right now they just don't look like that. I mean, their defensive line right now, Tavius Robinson, Mike Green, John Jenkins, Brent Urban, shout out to Brent Urban, wahoo wah, but that's who's getting pretty much all your DL snaps. I mean, most of your DL snaps are those guys. They can't get any pass rush. We saw that last week. And I saw Wiggins leave on a cart at the end of the football game. I don't know what happened to him, but we talked about last week, and I don't know if I'm doing the thing where I start the breakdown talking about the Ravens when we should be talking about the Chiefs. But 2 weeks in a row coming out of a Ravens game, that's my big takeaway is holy shit, what happened to these guys? Maybe the second half of the season last year was smoke and mirrors for this defense, but I do think Roquan Smith looks older. I mean, he didn't even finish the game, right? I thought he looked older last week. I'm starting to notice a couple things with this Ravens defense where you're starting to feel like maybe, the way we can kind of explain away Kansas City. Well, they got a rookie left tackle. He looks pretty good. They got a rookie left guard or a second-year left guard. He just moved in from tackle. They'll be a work in progress. Their best screen guy is out, Rashee Rice. Their vertical element guy is out. The defense, they're working through some things in the secondary. But you can kind of see how they might find a way to round into form and look like a playoff team. The Ravens, for me, it's yeah, you could get some guys back, but how many guys? I mean, remember a couple of years ago they lost half their team? So I don't know if this is a pattern or what it is, but the most concerning thing about the whole deal is you don't have a great defense. Guys are dropping like flies, and you ask a lot of your MVP quarterback. You ask a lot of Lamar Jackson. They've asked a lot of Lamar Jackson year over year, whether it was hey, we don't have the receivers for you, got to make it happen. Or, it's watching them play the passing game. Everything takes so long to develop. A lot of it is on his shoulders to create. And what I'm starting to see is, I don't know if he's, God, I hate saying this because I'm going to get clipped and everything, but has he lost a step? I don't mean he can't throw the football at a high level. It's so ironic because, the detractors of Lamar Jackson talk about, well, he's not a pocket passer. Bullshit. He's not a great thrower of the football. Bullshit. He just runs around. Bullshit. But the running around is a big part of his game, especially in an offense where things take a fuck ton of time to develop. And now what you're seeing is we saw it today, Kansas City had some late ads in the rush. Kansas City had some guys that got him down that, when I see him break contain and I see a Drew Tranquil, not taking anything away from Drew Tranquil, trying to track him down or beat him to the sideline. A couple years ago, it's not even a question. A couple years ago last week when Nowoski's facing him up in the middle of the field, I think he gets out of that. And so not to oversimplify it, but I kind of wonder if, like, hey, Lamar Jackson in the later stages of his career, and he could just be dinged because he left with a hamstring, no questions asked. He could be dinged the first month of this season. But I have noticed, and I'm not the only one who's noticed it, just a little bit of a loss of a step. And I don't know if he's dinged. I don't know if it's just the natural. I didn't know people like him aged. You know, I didn't know like Lamar Jackson would ever like lose a step. And maybe this is a little bit knee jerk, but it feels like when it's time for him to make that magic that so often has bailed his team out, he hasn't been able to make it, not with his legs. So, and you know, somebody in the chat just said Lamar is going to go down as a slightly better RG3. And this is the problem with this is why half the time I hate doing my job, honestly. Because of things like that. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? What does that even mean? Slightly better RG3. The guy's an MVP. He's been on a tear, a stretch of passing and running success, the likes of which damn near the league's never seen. Slightly better RG3. And people tell me don't take the bait. I'm sorry, man. You know, it doesn't feel like bait when you know. That's a pretty prevailing sentiment with Lamar, and I don't understand it. I kind of do, but I don't. I understand where that person's coming from, but I don't agree. You know, I think that's hate. Now, the Ravens, do I see a light at the end of the tunnel for them? I absolutely don't. I didn't pick them to win the AFC North. It makes me feel really smart right now, except for the fact that I picked the team that's starting. What the fuck is it? What's his nuts, as we would call him, Browning, who's getting ready for Monday Night Football against Reed's Denver Broncos. The Steelers this morning picking up a win in Dublin. They've got to feel really good about where they are now. Do I buy the Steelers as like a contending football team? Like, I don't know that I do, but boy, are they finding ways to win games. I mean, that was impressive. I mean, when you look at like what Minnesota did last week, and I think they're a fantastic coach football team and all that, and we talked about that. Carson Wentz at times, like during this football game, especially like down the seams and in between the numbers, made some really nice throws. But something we mentioned, you know, coming in this game was like make him throw the ball outside the numbers. And there were times where he just straight up missed. And there were also times where his clock was just off. But when you're down now, again, two guys on the offensive line, and that's something a ton of teams are dealing with in the NFL. You look at the marquee matchup today. The Eagles had to replace some guys. The Bucs have replaced damn near their whole offensive line all year long. Like, teams overcome that. But you can't put Carson Wentz behind that offensive line. I mean, there's 6 or 7 sacks today for the Steelers. I thought the Steelers defense was super opportunistic, and they play with a lead. And when they play with a lead, they got after his ass. Now, the play that I wanted to highlight was Wilson running down 22.5 miles an hour for a linebacker with that paint job. 22 miles an hour? Golly. What the fuck? What's his deal? He's an ACC guy. But unbelievable running down Jordan Addison. And in a game like that, now I don't know if the Vikings find a way to win the game, but the way it ends up with Mike Tomlin laying up and punting, which proves to be the right decision, I guess, but I hate the decision. That kind of saves everybody's bacon because, you know, it forces Minnesota to use, I think, 2-3 plays worth of clock. And at the end of the game, and I'm watching Atlanta's highlights here. I can't wait to watch this Michael Penix tape tonight. It's a big win for the Falcons. That was a huge win for the Steelers. They ran the football. I thought Kenny Gainwell looked like a number one running back. I mean, that was awesome. And Aaron Rodgers got the ball out. So, you know, that's a winning formula for them. Who else do I have to shout out in that football game? I had 22.48 miles per hour. And then, you know, Ramsey he had the fake hamstring pull. Then he actually pulled his hamstring. But just a super opportunistic defense. You know, with Kelly and O'Neal down, it was going to be hard for him. And we talked about it coming into the game, forcing the Steelers into 3rd and long. I'll look to review how long their third downs were on average, but that ended up flipping. That was the problem ended up being the Vikings. I think they were 4 of 14 on third down. So they totally flipped the script. So a big win for the Steelers. Again, when I say I don't see a team being a Super Bowl team, that means I'm not trying to slight the team. But, when I look at the class of the AFC right now, you can't talk about the class of the AFC without talking about the Bills, who, thank you very much, the Saints covered today. I told you that would happen. And you can't talk about it. I mean, Kansas City's going to make a case for saying, hey, we haven't changed much. The Chargers found a way to lose that game today. Being down Joe Alt is going to be a big deal for the Chargers. I don't know how many offensive line injuries you can actually take. But they've looked really good so far this season. Obviously, you get into the AFC North, and we're trying to figure out who's the lead dog. And in the South, the Colts they finally lost the damn game. And the Jags look pretty good, right? They pulled that thing out at the end. Jags look pretty good. So the AFC kind of wide open here. I guess the Steelers would say, hey, man, it's not as top heavy as in years past with the Joe Burrow injury. Certainly they haven't been able to make the playoffs in a couple of years. And without Joe Burrow until December, can they do that? The Ravens look superhuman. I don't mean superhuman. I mean, they look really fucking human right now. And the Chiefs have taken a while to get going. The Chargers have guys down on the offensive line. So you know what? Fuck it. If a Steelers fans wants to tell me we can go to the Super Bowl, I'm not going to argue with you, but that was a big win. We don't need to decide this early in the season. Now, two teams in the 1 p.m. window that I think both of them can go to the Super Bowl. Goes without saying the defending champs can go to the Super Bowl. I also think the Bucs are in that class. I think we might have seen – I think that there's a decent chance. By decent chance, I mean, hey, it could be Green Bay, Philly. It could be Tampa, Philly. It could be – I don't know, the Rams. The Rams look fantastic this season so far. That is a possible playoff matchup, whether it's divisional round or the NFC Championship. And the Eagles are inventing new ways to win games. They're also inventing new ways to give their fans like gray hairs, because it's, you're 4-0, you're fantastic. You've been through this last couple of years where in 23, was it 23? I can't remember the year we started 9-1 or whatever it was, and then collapsed at the end. They won a lot of close games that season. It's starting to feel like they're going to have to win a lot of close games this year. But I feel better about this team than that team. That team being the team that had to replace two coordinators, and you saw Matt Patricia pop up and that sort of thing. I feel better about this team than that team. However, there are some holes, and I think Eagles fans will tell you that. I mean, you look at this game coming in, and at the end of the first half, you're like, we have found our guy, Patullo, the guy who we had a guy call in on our hotline and say, what do you say? His IQ is too low. Patullo, his IQ is too low. And then in the first half, you're like, build him a statue. That fucking script was such a spicy little script. I mean, in the red zone, they're doing all sorts of creative shit. The run game never really got going. And I think that's why when you come out of the half, and I said to those guys, the thing I worry about when the Eagles are up even 3 scores in a game like this is I don't know where the run game is. And if you're going to try to be that team that you were last year in situations like this, at times it's going to look really disjointed, and it looked super disjointed in the second half. Now you have to remember, and I don't know where I saw this quote, but I got 2 quotes on the board here. One of the quotes is, if you block a punt in the NFL, you had a 90% chance of winning that game. So that was as soon as that happens, you feel pretty good. You enter this game, there's a lot of questions. How are we going to handle this spot? Jalen's 1-5 or whatever he is against the Bucs. Now, AJ Brown hadn't played. The irony here is, my next quote is from AJ Brown after the game. If you are not, now he didn't say this. I didn't say it. I just tweeted it. And I didn't say it. It's a quote that it's unattributed, but it's a quote that I found in his reading, because he reads all the fucking time. He was probably just reading after the game. If you are not welcomed, not listened to, quietly withdraw. Don't make a scene. Shrug your shoulders and be on your way. Is he married? Because it kind of feels like a marriage quote. I think he's talking about a relationship. I don't think he's talking about football, right? Eagles fans. I would say this: it doesn't fucking matter when you win, but yeah, we have to be realistic and look at some of the trends watching this offense and say it is a little bit troubling that they can't run the football, that they are having a hard time targeting their all-world player. 9 targets, 2 receptions for A.J. Brown today. And Devontae Smith, really not a lot of targets, not a lot of receptions. So, I thought Jalen in the first half played fantastic. I mean, one of the things you wondered coming in was like, how are you going to respond to the blitz? Because in the past, they have not. Todd Bowles has had their number. He's had his number. Of course, no A.J. Brown in those games. But in this game, I thought the number one thing that was exciting to see right off the bat was a lot of hots, a lot of easy answers, a lot of quick game when the time was right, and just a lot of good off-script decision-making from Jalen Hurts. So I thought the first half was great. It seems like it's always a tale of two fucking halves with this team. That's the thing that makes you nervous. Right? Hey, listen, this team has Super Bowl potential for sure. Are they the last undefeated team in the NFL? Take a bow. I think they are. Bills and Eagles. But to be great, you have to be consistent. And they know that from last year. They know it because this team's won championships. You have to be consistent throughout the season, because if you're not, then you talk about going into the playoffs, winning 3 or 4 games, whatever it's going to take. And at that point, you have to be consistent. Like, you can't get away with a half where you have no passing yards. Now, they did today against the playoff team, in my opinion. So I don't want to take anything away from them, because that was a fantastic win. I think Tampa's a very good football team who played poorly today. You get a block punt. You throw a pick in the end zone. I don't really know what Baker Mayfield was doing there. He really, as scrappy as he's been this year, and I do trust Baker in the whole thing, he has not always played his best ball early this year. He also hasn't really had a full deck of wide receivers out there. Without Mike Evans, that's kind of akin to the Eagles not having A.J. Brown. The fumble, that sort of thing, like you just can't do that shit. You can't do that shit if you're the Bucs. You can't expect to beat a team like the Eagles and do shit like that. You're out there in the 100-degree heat. I want to shout out the defense. The defense was fantastic today. I watched the defense, and what happened in the Bears game? Oh, really? Yeah. The Bears won? Wow. Yeah. Kyle Long's going to be holding some people to Kyle's got a bunch of receipts on the Bears and Caleb Williams. Yeah, he was out there sliming people in Kansas City today. The defense was fantastic. Ajomo, huge play, because at that point, at the end of the game, you have to make a decision if you're Tampa between hurrying up on 3rd and long or 2nd and long. It was about to be 3rd and long, hurrying up, getting the line of scrimmage, making a play. At that point, they have to take a timeout, and that affects the way the game finishes, right? So at that point, they take a timeout. They pick up a chunk on 3rd and 10, but a great game. Tom Brady and those guys highlighted it between the 2 inside guys. Jomo making a huge play. Fucking Quinyon Mitchell was fantastic today. He was fantastic. I got his stats here. 44 coverage snaps, 2 receptions on 9 targets, 6 yards allowed. He was strapping. And there were some tight window throws in man coverage that were tight window because he made them tight window throws. Usually these are catches for Ibuka or for Godwin or for whoever. And that was the other thing. If you're the Bucs and the Eagles were all over the flat stuff early in the game, I didn't see Baker test the middle of the field barely at all. I'm very interested to look at his passing chart, because I don't think he hit anybody over the middle of the field. Cooper DeJean was fantastic. That dude's such a sure tackler. That's the great thing about a guy like that. You hope to get a great cover guy. You hope to get a guy who can cover in the slot, who can play outside. Like, you talk about all that shit. But in today's NFL, having a guy who can play slot and can tackle his ass off is a real positive that you don't always get. Like, sometimes the best cover guys are not the best tacklers. And he was fantastic. He really was. I caught the little Earl Grey there. You can't teabag people. I know people are going to complain about that call, but we've seen it. Like, they don't let you mug people. They don't let you teabag anybody. They don't let you stand over anybody. So that they were fantastic. And the second Campbell got beat on the fucking wheel, that'll happen when you got 8 seconds to throw on a particular play. And you got to be deep as the deepest is what I would say. They were in like cover 4 or something on the other 70-yarder. I don't think Vic Fangio is going to give up a bunch of 70-yard touchdowns this year. That's kind of not what his reputation is. They'll be fine. This team has a chance to be 8-0 going into the Packers and the Cowboys stretch start November. So doing a great job, but they have not won any games a fucking normal way. And so that I would like to see that at some point, like a nice in-phase win, right? Where you just – and maybe the Cowboys game was the closest. The Chiefs game was fantastic in that way. But the last 2 weeks has just been a shit show. But 4-0, they just won a game without completing a single pass in the second half. That's something else. So, and they had a fake tush push. That was great. So big win for them. I think the Bucs will be fine for Bucs fans in here. I think you guys are a damn good football team. You talk about the class of the NFC. Obviously, right now you got to say Eagles. I think the team that's going to play here in about an hour is pretty fucking good as well. And I think the team that the Eagles just found a way to beat is pretty damn good as well. So you're talking about the Eagles, you talk about the Rams, you talk about the Packers, you talk about the Bucs, and I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody. The Lions. Come on now. Best team in the history of football. I'm just joking. Eagles fans, I had this thing with the Lions the other day where I did a breakdown, and I broke down Monday Night Football. And now you see what I'm talking about. I was so blown away by how bad the Ravens looked defensively that I kind of led with that. And so Lions fans got a little bit upset. You guys are fantastic as well. Those to me that's the class and I think the NFC, I know is a lot deeper than the AFC right now. And so these playoffs are going to be a lot of fun whenever it's time for that. So, all right, catch us tomorrow live. I appreciate y'all tuning in. I'm going to go bet the Packers. Okay. So y'all do that too. Take care.